hate myself. Everything that Lucy has done when it comes to branding has always been like fresh, unique, and I really like that about Lucy. So, is that your dog? That's your
Who,
cat.
me? Oh, I think it's a cat. There sometimes some animals kind of trickle in and out.
So,
It's almost like cat dinner time, so
poor thing. So I'm going to allow you to share your screen. If you all have any questions while she's talking, of course, drop them in the chat, or you can send them to me, or however you want to do it, or you can just unmute yourself and you can talk with her. So yeah, I think you should have access, Lucy.
okay, let's see. Oh, why isn't it working? Let me do a test.
Hold on.
I think it's me. I just hold on, let me do this. Completely reset my computer the other day, so nothing. Okay, there we go.
Me.
Okay, let me see if this works without having to quit. Okay, there we go. All right, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, can you see the presentation okay?
Yes. I love simple.
Perfect. I also realized I should have put some of my work in here, but I didn't put anything in here. But I will get started. And yes, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. Now that I'm sharing full screen, I can't see them, but you can also just interrupt me at any time and ask me any questions you have. So this presentation is on how to create a memorable brand experience. So I'll be talking from a few different places, not just the design side, but also the strategy or the plan behind the design. I find that a lot of people get really excited about jumping into the visuals and the logo and the colors because that's like super fun and super exciting. But even before that, I always recommend that you just really get clear on some other things first. So I will be talking a bit about that and then some design pointers too. Let me switch pages. Okay, there we go. So today we will cover just general branding basics. What is a brand experience exactly? Why is it important? And then the next step from that, we'll be talking about your brand foundations or what makes your business unique. And then I have a section more on the visual side of what you need to create or just gather, because maybe you already have some of these things, but just the items that you'll need for a full brand experience, and then just some recap tips at the end too. There we go. So a quick introduction. My name is Lucinda. I go by Lucy. I live in Tampa. That's where I met Saba. And I am a brand strategist and designer for creative founders. I'm super passionate about helping you all create full brand experiences. That's what I like to call just the whole experience of your brand. And I have been a designer since, I want to say, I started doing freelance work when I was still in college. So over 10 years of design, and I officially started myself as a business about 3 years ago. So I also completely understand what you're going through as you are figuring out your business, figuring out what you want to look like as well. So I'm super excited to be here. First, I want to go over what is a brand experience. That's sort of what I like to call just the whole experience of your business. A brand experience is a well-rounded approach to how somebody experiences your business when they encounter it. So these are some of the components I've listed that I usually say a brand experience is. So there's the brand personality. What is your business like if it was a person? What makes it relatable? Those are the, like, your brand voice, how you talk, how you approach things. That's really what your brand looks like or your business looks like out in the world. Also, what makes your business different and stand out from someone else? What does your voice sound like when you're writing copy or when you're writing for your email? And then, of course, the part that everyone knows is your logo or your colors, what your brand looks like, how it communicates things visually. Sometimes I would also add in-person experiences to that, or even like if you're on a podcast or something like that, what is your brand like when somebody encounters it that way? And then also the actual services that you're offering. Does that also match everything else in this experience? Because everything should tie together and come together. So it's a very seamless experience when somebody encounters you, no matter where they are. So a brand experience is basically all of the different pieces that make your brand special, stand out, and speak to your ideal client. And this experience is important because you're showing up every day very intentionally, and every interaction that you have with your ideal client, it should represent you, what your business stands for, and your values every single time. And it also creates connection. So when you're consistent every time you show up, from your visuals, from the way you talk, then you create more connection because people, they recognize you as soon as they see what you're doing. And it will also create community and start bringing clients in too. And then I also want to talk a little bit about inconsistencies, because I feel like those are kind of easy to point out as well. So the opposite of being consistent are these things listed here. So maybe that means you don't have a clear brand personality, or like one day you're really talking in a certain way, but then you might use completely different language that doesn't sound like yourself. Maybe you're talking to too many people and not being super specific with who you're trying to target. Maybe you're not being consistent across your platforms. Maybe you're using different fonts, for example, on your website, but then you have different fonts on your social media, and then you're using different fonts in your email. The colors might not match across the different platforms. You might have completely different styles of photography. All of these things really come together to make you really recognizable no matter what you do. And so these are things that I stress a lot, is just making sure everything is consistent in all of these different touch points. Oh, I saw somebody come off the mic. If you have a question, feel free to stop me and let me know too. And I'm trying to change the page. There we go. So a strong brand experience comes from understanding your brand's foundations and applying that knowledge across all areas of your brand. Details and consistency matter. Consistency is like my favorite word in the whole world, because I feel like that's what really gets businesses from where they are to like where they want to be. Consistency might be, like posting once a week on Instagram or sending out that newsletter every month. But even when it comes to your brand, it's like using the same fonts in the same way, using the colors in the same way. So I love consistency and details, and I think that they're really important. Now we'll dig a little bit into your brand's essence or secret sauce, basically what makes your business unique. And these are things that you can pull into your visuals when you're starting to figure out your logo and your colors and your fonts and all of that fun stuff. And I will also share this presentation with you, Saba, too, if you'd like, afterwards, because there are some questions in here that I think are really important for you all to kind of think about and work through too.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So first, I like to really start with the foundations of, oh, is there a question? First, I really like to start with brand foundations. So these are the very basic building blocks of your business, and thinking through these questions, because these questions really do inform so many other decisions along the way. So first, what is your business and why did you start it? What are you passionate about? Making sure that the services that you provide also resonate with what you want to do. What are your core values? Why is what you do important to you? What story do you want to share with your audience? What will bring your community together? what sets you apart from others, and how can you share all of these different unique qualities with your audience. So this might show up in the way you're talking, this might show up in what your logo looks like, or even the colors or the fonts that you're choosing, or even your brand photography, for example. Maybe that's the way you're posing, or even your color palette in your clothes. So all of these things kind of tie in together. And so it's really important to ask these questions. Then the next step is your brand personality. Once you've really taken a look at your foundation questions, I really like this part. I usually recommend choosing 3 to 5 adjectives to describe your business personality and how you want to show up for your ideal client. How do you want your client to feel when they interact with your brand? And you can use these words then to convey everything across how they encounter you. So the words on the right are my own brand words: warm, honest, enthusiastic, minimalist, and supportive. And these come through the way I write on Instagram, also my color palette, my website copy, my own brand photography. So I always refer back to these words no matter what I'm doing, just to make sure this is exactly the way I am showing up. But I also feel like my brand, it matches my personality too. So it's a little bit easier. Sometimes maybe your brand is a little bit different than your own personality. So then you'll definitely want to make sure to always check back in on what your words are. That way you are presenting in that way. Then next is really discovering your ideal client and also making sure everything aligns with who your ideal client is. There are a few different ways I recommend figuring out your ideal client, but here are some questions here. So what type of people do you want to work with? What types of interests do they have? How do they talk? What types of visuals will resonate with them the most? Maybe it's memes. Some people really relate to memes. Some people relate to other sorts of photography or video. Do your products and services relate to your ideal client? What content and services would be helpful for them? What types of questions do they ask? That way you can address them in different ways. What do people look for when they want to invest in a service? And are your products and services the solutions to their problems? Then once you have all of that foundation work thought out, that's when I usually recommend moving on to the next step, which is starting to actually put everything together. So in this section, I will go through some must-have items for an effective overall visual brand experience in general. So all items will work in harmony after you've really thought through exactly what your business is, who you want to work with, why it's important, and what makes it special. I usually recommend making a list of all of the elements that you'll need to create your brand experience. So on the right, I have some examples. That would be your logo, your color palette, your fonts, your photography style, those brand personality words we had. Maybe you already have some copy written, or maybe there are phrases that you say or something like that. Just thinking about all of the different pieces that come together to form your whole brand. And then you might already have some of these too. That's totally perfect. You don't have to redo your logo necessarily from the beginning if you already have one, but maybe it's just a matter of adding these other pieces so they all work together in harmony. So then here are just some examples of items that I have for myself, for this brand experience. So for my logos, I have a few logos. I have a primary one that I use in most places, and then I have logo variations. So this little semicircle, Hello Lucy, is usually the one that I use on all of my presentations. This wavy one is the, I guess, more fun one that I use on my email list. So all of these work together and they're all coordinated, but these are the pieces that I use everywhere just to make sure I'm always recognizable. And then another part of the visual side is your color palette. So you can have a main color, a few accent colors, and then a neutral color. And once you have these colors, I always use them in the same way every time. So I would recommend getting your color palette together and then always using those same colors. Then for fonts, I usually recommend having maybe 3 fonts. No more than 3 fonts is usually my max. So I have my heading font, which is what I use maybe on social media, on my YouTube videos. I use this font for my titles. And then an accent font is a smaller font that you can use to call attention to things. Mine's italicized. So usually if I'm talking and I want to emphasize something, then I'll use that. And then a subheading font, which you can use in smaller areas on your website or on your social media as well. And then my paragraph font is the one that I use when I'm writing out paragraphs on my site or blog posts or in emails. And my top 2 fonts are exactly the same. So my heading font and my accent font are the same font. And then my subheading font and my paragraph font are the same too. So I wouldn't recommend going too wild with fonts. You can get a lot of variation, even with just 1 or 2 fonts. And then lastly is photography. And so I use a mix of, I mostly use my own photos now, but I use a mix of stock photos on blog posts and then my own photos. So the left are my photos, and I made sure to choose an environment that matched my overall look and feel that I wanted to give. My color palette matches my brand color palette. And then on the right are some stock photos, just some that I have in my own sort of library if I need to pull from. But when I was choosing stock photos, I was also trying to be very intentional in choosing photos that match my overall color palette. If you have questions about stock photos too, I'll be sure to also give some suggestions of where I get mine from. But all of it sort of works together to create this whole experience at every touch point. And then I have all of this in a folder on my hard drive, but you could also store it on your cloud or on your desktop. But anytime I need to do something, I have all of these photos to pull from. I also have my color codes, my general brand voice style. It's all sort of there collected. That way I can always grab it without having to guess. And then last is 7 tips that I recommend for you to apply for a strong brand experience. So first is just to approach everything with your full experience in mind. So think back to your why, your foundations, and approach every decision when you create for your brand, whether it be your actual services or those visual elements like social media templates or email marketing, your website. Just make sure you're always thinking back to your foundations and your adjectives. Then next is to stay consistent, my favorite word, consistent when sharing your business with your community, because consistency does create recognition. I'm not sure if you have, scrolled through Instagram, for example, and you just see someone's post and you immediately know who it is. It's because they have been very consistent with the way they show up. And so you just know exactly who they are as soon as you see them. And so staying consistent with your branding is very important. And the best way to do this is to always go back to those words and keep that bank of colors and fonts ready so you're able to access them. And always be yourself too. Then tip number 3 is to decide on your visual style and stick with it. So once you have figured out exactly what you want your brand to look like, make sure your visual style fits with your brand personality and create everything with that in mind. So I kind of mentioned it already, but I recommend keeping a library of items so you can just grab from your computer or your phone, and that will help you stay consistent. So on my phone, I also have a photo album of my logos and some of my photos, as well as just my colors. And so if I need to pull from them really quickly, I can just do that right there.
Lucy, so one of my favorite thing, somebody posted a reel about this, was I save my logos and like my most used picture, the color codes where I can like brand my stories. I if you have an iPhone, I just heart them, so I favorite them. So when you pull them up on Instagram, you can just automatically go to your favorites, your favorite photos, and that's where all my branding sits.
Yes.
So nothing else sits in my favorite folders except for my branding.
Yes, I don't know if I can show you on here. I was trying to pull it up. I have an album and it's just called Hello Lucy Branding. And I'm going to try to show you. I don't think it's going to work, but I have my logos. Oh, okay. Logos, couple of photos. So these are pretty much the items that I'm always using. And yeah, when you're on Instagram, you can just pull it up and it'll show up really easily.
Yeah, I love that.
Yes. Then create rules or guidelines also for how you apply your branding. Creating guidelines for yourself or in the future if you're wanting to hire somebody to help you so they know exactly what you're wanting them to do and what your branding looks like. I definitely recommend this. So here are just some tips that I always recommend when you're just getting all of your branding together. So for photography style, choosing an editing style that matches your brand and your brand personality, making sure your photos match your brand colors. Maybe that's through your outfit, maybe that's through where you're taking it, maybe it's through props or something like that. And then yes, stock photos are your friends, but carefully select them to make sure you match your brand. I do have some recommendations. I will type them after this. And I spent quite a few hours just digging and pulling photos that I thought would work for my brand. There are some really good stock photos out there that you can use for sure. And then for fonts, deciding what you want your fonts to look like, and then making sure you're always using them in a similar way. So I showed you my heading font, and my heading font is also here in this presentation. And so I'm always using it in the same way. I don't really like capitalizing that much on some of in my brand. So I also don't capitalize on my presentations, but then I'm using my subheading font here. Even on this slide, photography fonts and colors, it's in all caps all the time. And so just making sure you always use your font in the same way, use similar sizes and proportions and spacing every single time. So just consistency and details. That way you're always recognizable. And then colors, only use your brand colors across your different platforms. And if you do need more colors, I usually just recommend using the same exact color, but going lighter or darker if you need more colors. I usually also recommend having like 3 to 5 colors for your brand. 3 if you find that your brand is a little bit more minimal. 5 if you want a little bit more variety. And then from there, just going lighter or darker, but the exact same color section if you need more colors. And then templates. Templatize things to make it easier for you, and you can coordinate across all of your different platforms by using templates. I know Canva is a great place to create templates. You can also create templates just like in a Google Doc or something, like if you need words to pull from, or emails if you're writing in the same way. Just creating templates for everything, create templates just to keep everything consistent. And then tip number 6 is to connect with your audience. So provide value in whichever form is most helpful for them, because when you connect with them on a personal level and speak directly to them, they will cheer you on and you will stay top of mind when they're ready to work with you. This is just a part of the whole brand experience, not necessarily the visual side, but always making sure you're creating that connection no matter what you're doing. And then a quick recap. So first, a brand experience is more than just a logo. It is how somebody interacts with you and through all of your touch points. It is like, I like to describe it as an emotional experience. It's a full connection. And then your brand essence. when you uncover your brand foundations, you're able to connect with your dream clients because you know exactly what they're thinking. Your services are tailored to them. You're working in your zone of genius or your own interests too. And so everything just works really well together. Then next is creating and collecting. So keeping a library of your brand elements will help you stay consistent whenever you need to create new content. That's just collecting everything, keeping it on your desktop, keeping it in Dropbox, keeping it on your phone, just making sure you have everything so it's easy to implement, and then apply. Being consistent in your branding across everything you do, and that will help build trust and community and grow your business. And that's it. So does anybody have any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So how do you like mix and match your fonts, if that makes sense? Because I'm in the middle of creating my brand kit, like as we're doing this, and I'm trying to, I guess, find fonts that match, or I don't know, like that are cohesive, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good question. So what is your overall mood or your vibe? Are you more serious, or how would you describe it?
I'm definitely minimalist. Like, yeah, it's real chill and not loud or anything like that. So the
Yeah,
font,
that's great.
so here's one thing I can say. The font that I really like, and I don't know if you're like very familiar with fonts off the top of your head. The font that I really like is the AFRAH, the Afra font. And I've just been trying to find something to go with that for about a week now. So I don't know.
Let me actually stop sharing my screen and I will pull it up right now and we can try to play around with it.
I love Bianca. Bianca, I owe you a text message, girl.
You owe me a few text messages, so we can talk about that later.
I sure do. Request me on Zelle. Bianca's very simple, right? The simpler, the better too. And believe it or not, like I'm glad that you actually know your font, because when I got branding done, they were like, so what do you like? And I was like, I don't know, like the cursive ones.
Yeah.
You know, like I couldn't even like give her a name.
That's okay too, though. I usually just like to kind of go with somebody's look and feel and choose them myself. But
yeah,
if you know what you like, then that's great too. Okay, how do I spell this?
Hold on, I'm about to go back and look. AFRAH.
Okay. Ooh, okay. So let's take a look at it. Oh, this is nice. So it looks like I'm just gonna go through my own process if this is helpful. So it looks like this font is kind of modern, like you said, definitely minimal. It's a little bit feminine because it has these curves too. But based on what you're saying, I would probably pair this with something similar to what you're seeing underneath.
Yeah,
so something clean, something minimal. So then let's see. I know on Creative Market, you can also kind of write out some words to see what it looks like. I would definitely recommend not going too thin to make sure you can read it.
Okay.
So let's do maybe the regular one looks pretty nice. So I will try to base it off of that. So now that I'm looking at this, it looks kind of tall to me too. So I might try to find a complementary font that's kind of tall.
Okay.
Even when you're looking at fonts, they might be tall or wide or something like that, and they just kind of don't feel right.
Right.
But since this is kind of tall, I would also look for something tall too.
Okay.
So then I like looking at Google Fonts because Google Fonts are free. Usually for my main font, similar to this one, I would purchase that one just so Google Fonts doesn't always have the best fancy fonts, so I might purchase that one, but Google Fonts has a lot of great fonts for paragraphs.
So you have to purchase the font in order to use it on your products?
It really depends. So Google Fonts are completely free, which means you can use them in any way you want. But for
Okay.
example, this one you have here, it does look like you have to publish it to be able to use it a few different ways. So if you wanted to use this in Canva, you would have to purchase the desktop version because that gives you the files that you can upload to Canva. But
Yeah,
if
so that's
you,
where I actually found the font is on Canva. So that's what I've
oh,
been using. So it is
oh,
on
nice.
Canva.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, then that's perfect. Yeah. Sometimes platforms do include fonts too. So if it's on Canva, then that's great. But if
Got-
you're making something outside of Canva, then you might need to purchase it because it might not be available outside of Canva.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So then I would go to, Google Fonts. And then Google Fonts has a lot of great free fonts. And since we're kind of looking for maybe something similar to the one underneath, not necessarily, I would filter it by a sans serif. So those are the fonts that don't have the little legs on them.
Gotcha.
So, and then I kind of just start looking at ones that feel like they might work. And then you can also type in words here so you can see what it looks like. And then since these are free, you can just start downloading them and then uploading them into Canva and kind of seeing what feels good.
This is so cool. Thank you.
Yeah. I would definitely recommend probably something taller for you. Like I know Montserrat, this one down here is a really popular one, but I feel like it's a little too wide because the font that you're using is very tall and slender. So I'm not sure if like something like that wide would pair well with it. So kind of looking at the shapes too.
Okay. Because the other one that I have paired to it, I haven't really tried it together yet, but they just look good. And I think it's called Bodini. But
Oh,
I
that's
don't know.
another serif. Okay. Yeah, I know that one. That's a pretty popular one. Yeah, I would say also think about the mood that you're wanting to, convey to. If you're using Bodoni, I feel like that might be like too formal if you're wanting to go more like minimal.
Mm.
Oh.
All right, I'll play with some things. Thank you.
Yeah, play with some things. That's a good question. Does anybody else have any questions? You can ask me anything, completely open.
Anything, yeah, because Lucy is not just knowledgeable in branding, but she owns her own business. She started her business just like I did, right? So she knows good systems. By the way, can I tell them who you work for?
Oh, sure.
She works for ClickUp. She works for the ClickUp. How freaking exciting is that? They need to hire me.
They do.
No, please don't. Oh my God.
I'm currently trying to make some moves over there, but we'll see what happens.
They need to hire me, honestly. I talk so much about them. It's insane. But yeah, if you all have any questions, go ahead and ask Lucy. But if not, that's okay too, right? This was really good,
Yeah.
Lucy. Even I learned quite a bit. Because like I like how you say that it's an experience, right? Because I think we look at branding as different parts, and although there is different parts to branding, it all needs to become one, right? And it all needs to be overall an experience for the person that's receiving it on the other end, right? And so the colors that you choose, the font that you choose, you know, how you lay everything out, it might seem very like, oh, you know, aesthetics don't matter and all that, which is very true. It doesn't matter right away, right? Because I didn't have a website until like a few months ago, but which I might need you on my website. But anyway, I'm, believe it or not, like I love Wix, y'all, but I'm thinking about changing it again. I'm thinking about changing it again, which is like insanity, especially for what I just paid. But I think Lucy, we might need to collab. We might need to do something. But yeah, so like you want it to be you want it to be an all-encompassing experience, right? And so when someone sees your things, it should be cohesive. Like when they see, even if it's just an Instagram post, it should match, in a sense, match your website, because like without even reading, they'll know that, oh my gosh, that's Lucy's stuff. And they'll more so want to engage with you because like you're recognizable, right? You're not getting drowned out in all the posts that we scroll through every day, right? There's a question in the chat for you. Where's the chat? Do you see the chat?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't want to do a full rebrand, but I do want to change up my accent colors for my brand a bit. Should I just start introducing it in my content or do a rebrand? I think it's okay to just introduce it in your content. I'm also sort of updating my own things as well. And I am just planning to just dive right in and do it and not make a formal announcement. I think maybe if, like you were changing your name or changing something completely, that might be when I reintroduce something like, oh, I'm having a shift in my business. I'm changing my name. I'm changing my services. I'm changing everything. I think that would make more sense to do like a bigger announcement so people aren't caught off guard. But if you're kind of just switching around your accent colors and everything else is staying the same, I think it's fine to just implement them and make the shift. I mean, maybe at first it's just like introducing one color into your content if you want, and then kind of adding the rest as you go, or you could just kind of do it all at once. I think that would be okay. That was a good question. Yeah, I'm even shifting my own. I'm shifting.
I have a question on colors. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
Who was that? Who was that?
Oh, I can't hear anymore.
We can hear you. No, hold on.
You hear me? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Colors and
Wait a minute.
I got disconnected.
You're back.
Okay, I'm back. I was testing my fonts against my colors, and in your opinion, do you think I should select my colors first and then choose my fonts? Because I feel like some fonts don't work well with some colors.
What do you mean by that? Or why do you think they don't work together?
For instance, I had this sky blue falcon looking color, and I like the Monotype Cursiva font, I think it's called. And I felt like it was not popping with that particular color as against another color.
Okay, let me look it up and see. So it's this one, this fancier one?
Yeah, that's correct.
Describing it as a fancier one. I mean, I think it's okay. I think they all do work together to provide like a whole mood, but I don't think, so I think you could do both at the same time. I usually work with both at the same time, sort of. I think I usually actually start by figuring out the overall mood, just getting some mood imagery to figure out what the feelings are that I want to convey in a brand. And then from there, that's when I create the logo. And then after I have the logo, that's when I start working on the fonts. So yeah, I guess I do the colors first, but I think you can do them together too and see how you like them working together. This one down here has a sort of nice light blue as well. And I think that works well for the font.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, did you have any more questions though, or do you want to show what you have so far? Or is that putting you on the spot too much?
Well, not on the spot. I just don't have it with me.
That's
at
okay.
the moment.
But yeah, I think you could work with both together as long as it conveys the feeling that you want. I feel like Monotype Corsiva is kind of like a very formal font. And so I guess I would just ask if the colors that I'm using match the type of mood that I'm wanting for my whole brand.
Okay, thank you.
There's a question for you in the chat, Lucy.
What mood does my image give you with everything I have? Do you have anything to share or the logo on your Zoom picture? Zoom picture. Shift virtually and the Zoom picture. From your fonts and from your color, I think I would say that the word shift is in cursive, so it feels a little feminine to me. The virtually is a little bit more modern, but not fully modern. So maybe you're helping female entrepreneurs and maybe you're a little bit more formal too. And your colors feel a bit sensitive or a bit serious, but also a little bit light. That's the mood that I'm giving. So it feels professional. It feels feminine, a little bit feminine. Or who that's who you're wanting to target. Does that match? That's sort of what I'm getting.
Oh, this one. Okay. Any other questions for Lucy? I didn't even know that this website was a thing, so that's actually really cool.
Which one? My fonts?
Yeah, I did not. Never thought to go and like play around in there, to be honest.
I love my fonts. That's where I buy.
I don't think I'm gonna rebrand, but like, I don't know. I want another look already.
My fonts from is my fonts.
Yeah, so I really like this. If y'all don't have any more questions, we will.
Yeah, you can ask me. Not trying to pull for questions, but if you have any questions about website or logo,
website, running a
website,
business, working for ClickUp,
Instagram, I don't know,
all that good stuff. Actually, go ahead and drop your Instagram in the chat for them so that they can go and find you.
I don't know how to grab a link, so
maybe
this will link itself. Yeah.
Do you what exactly do you do?
I do a lot of things, but for businesses, I do brand strategy. So that's I usually do like a workshop where I sit and talk with a business. They might be a new business, they might be an existing business, and they're just really trying to figure out their overall brand plan. So sometimes I sit and talk with people about their services, and if their like price point matches who they're wanting to talk to, who they're wanting to talk to. So I help people figure out who they want to work with and what they want to look like, what feelings they want to convey. And then I also help them come up with a plan of how to execute that. And then from there, I do all of the visual stuff too. So I create logos and the color palette and the fonts and all of the assets. So maybe you have a business card, or maybe it's like a packaging design or product-based business. So I create all of that stuff too. And then social media templates or Pinterest templates. And then I also do websites too, as well.
Wow. That's
yeah. And then I'm hoping to also start helping people with their processes and their systems as well. So I'm hoping to do a whole like experience to where you don't really need to
do anything.
Yeah. So I also love systems and processes a lot. And I feel like
so I have a random question, and this has nothing to do with like branding or anything like that. So I use Stripe, and I did a test on my website, and like a test purchase, and I can't find my $8. Can somebody help me?
Oh no. Did you use a fake card? Like a fake?
No, I use like my real card, like my real money.
It pulled $8 out?
Yeah, it pulled $8 out of my account, but it's not showing up on my Stripe account.
You better than
And
me. I would have
Is
put
it?
$1. I would have put
I
$1.
did put
I don't care.
$1, but I forgot it accounts for shipping as well. Like I wanted to make sure everything worked.
Oh.
So I don't know
What system is it connected to?
Squarespace.
Have you signed into your Stripe account?
And you're sure it went through
Yeah,
your
it's
Stripe?
not on my Stripe dashboard. It took it out of my account. The sale went through. Like I just don't know where
It might. Did you do it today?
I did it 2 days ago. I don't remember. All of these days have been jumbling together. I think it was I think it was 2 days ago.
I'm trying to think.
And you're sure you used Stripe?
And I
as
got
your
an email
processor too?
confirmation. Huh? I'm sorry.
You're sure you used your processor was Stripe and not something else?
It was Stripe because I got an email saying
Okay.
congratulations on your first purchase, on your first
Oh.
transaction, and the money's not in the dashboard and it's not in my account either. So I'm confused.
I feel like I don't know. I don't
I'm
remember.
confused too.
I would
Usually it
reach
shows
out to
up,
Stripe.
but yeah, I would maybe reach out to Stripe. I would say
I
usually I use
did.
Stripe too, and it
They
usually
haven't
shows up
answered
there.
So whenever you do a transaction, so okay, here's my question. You use Stripe and use it on your website. So once they purchase something, it goes right to your Stripe dashboard.
I was gonna say, like Shayna said, I'm thinking there's a processing delay. Like there's like 3
Mhm.
days where it needs to pop up. For me,
Yeah.
I use Stripe through Thrivecart, so I'm jumping through 2 hoops there. But like, if you were to purchase the course right now, it would pop up in my Stripe dashboard. But I've also had, I don't know, like 300 transactions already go through there. So like, I can't tell you what the first transaction looked like because it was not, but it might be a purchasing thing. Because I remember I had that problem, a lag between Waves. So Stripe attached to Waves, where you could send client invoices, and then me getting paid. It was like a week process to just get the damn money around.
Okay.
And it would,
I
the problem was
thought
it wasn't showing up in Waves, but it would show up in Stripe. But it wouldn't show up in Waves where they paid, which makes absolutely no sense.
I'm gonna give it a few more days.
Because I think you deserve your $8 back.
I mean, at least it wasn't a customer. It was like my money.
Yeah.
Granted, I do want my money back, but the website is also live. So if anybody purchases on there, then
You want to make sure that you're actually getting paid.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Also check into Stripe, see if there's a way that you can like do a test run. Cause like I know in Thrivecart when like there's a button where we can turn it on as test and it'll give you a fake credit card number and it'll process just like it would process a real card and send you the emails and all that kind of stuff, but it allows you to just test the process. And so double check to see if Stripe doesn't have that feature.
Okay.
Probably does. So that if you ever do it again, that your money doesn't sit in limbo.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was a thing, but thank you.
To test, yeah, you can. Girl, you thought I was gonna buy that $2,000 course with my money? I don't care if I have the money sitting there. I don't trust the platform. I feel like as soon as you pay, it would break down and I would lose my shit. No, I'm not doing it. I would have somebody else go purchase the damn course. I'm like, I'll sell you back. You go put it on your card.
Most of the time when I've built e-commerce sites, I just use like a fake card.
Or
you can use
card.
You could use a fake number. They're usually like enter this. You can create a fake number to just kind of test everything.
Damn, it won't go. I was gonna say you could lock your card, but it won't go. It won't go through if your card is locked.
Ooh, more questions. Have you ever worked with a clothing brand? I haven't. The only time I've actually worked with a clothing brand, they were a startup and they were looking for funding. And so I helped them create some presentations, but I haven't worked with a clothing brand. That'd be fun. Oh, what maximum amount of niches would you recommend? Niching is very tricky. Everyone has their own idea of what a niche is. Could you share more about what you're doing? I think my only thought off the bat is that if they are too different, then you might need to separate them versus trying to talk about everything together. And my bottle, it's one I got off of Amazon. It's called Arc. I think there are a few different brands and they all kind of call themselves different, but the bottle kind of looks the same. I liked it because it matches my style and it has the numbers on the side for drinking it. What's your opinion on niching, Saba?
I always say, I know everyone pushes like niching from the very beginning, niche down, niche down, niche down. But I honestly feel like you should dabble in a few things before niching down, because you really are not sure, unless you are really sure. Cool. But like, you really are not sure, like right away when people get into the course, they're like, I need to pick a niche. And I'm like, you don't even know if you even want to be, if you even like being a VA yet, to be honest. Like, yeah, you're here and you're learning and all that kind of stuff. But like a lot of my students have gone through being a VA and they come out and they actually enjoy being a VA for, an e-commerce brand, or they like, getting into the health and wellness industry, or they just don't want to be a VA at all, but they still use everything they learned to be a social media manager. So it's like, I think that you should dabble in a few different things. Like you should test different niches and allow the clients to really flow in a sense, and then determine, okay, wow, I don't want to work with that kind of client. I don't want to work with this kind of client. And then you narrow your way down, right? Because I don't want you to automatically go in and be like, oh, well, because I like health and wellness, I want to work with health and wellness people. When in reality, you might start working with health and it might be your passion, but you don't actually like to do that. Right. Because I think there's a very big difference between not like you like to, that you might not be good at it. So like you might be passionate about something, but you may not be good at what you're passionate about. And you want to make sure that you are in line there so that you're not offering something that you truly don't like just for the hell of niching down.
And then, to piggyback off of, Antoinette's writing in here, and then Shayna also asks the question that I was going to say. I think people automatically also think of niching as a specific industry, but you could also niche in another way. Like example, maybe you love ClickUp, and so ClickUp is your niche, or maybe you have a process and your process is what makes you special, and so you could niche that way. So if you even like working with different types of people, maybe there's something else or a common thread through the way you work, and maybe that's your niche instead. It doesn't have to be an industry, but if you do feel excited about working with a specific industry, you can do that too.
That's so true, because if you look at Christy De Silva, Christy is all about systems and systems and systems, right? And so she doesn't have a niche. She builds systems for any kind of business. As long as you want a project management system, she will build it out for you, whatever niche you have. And so her niche was systems, sustainable systems, and who she works with is broad. So there's no, like you said, like you can niche down wherever. And so Chris, like when it comes down to like, if you don't know yet, that's normal, right? That's normal if you don't know in the very beginning, because as you start to work with certain people, as you start to get more familiar with VA industry and all, the online space and all that kind of stuff, it will start to like grow on you, right? And if it doesn't, then we'll dig deeper. But normally it starts to grow on you and you're like, wow, I really like that type of content. I really like that type of person. I really want to work with coaches, like Saba. I really want to work with somebody who has a course. I really want to work with somebody who, does in-person events, because I really like, I like event planning, but I kind of want to do it online, stuff like that. It starts to grow on you, and then you can dive in and go deeper to that specific niche or that specific process.
That was really helpful. Thanks, Saba, because I was looking at like other VAs who are already have their Instagram up and running. And I was like, wow, I don't even know what I'm going to post about this yet. Yeah. Because I haven't decided which way to go.
And so, like I said, that's super normal, right?
Okay.
And as we get more familiar, you will be clear by the time we get to the end. For the most part, you'll be clear on who it is that you want to speak to, and who it is that you're attracted to, right? You may not be able to put your finger on it, like, you know, color, age, you know, very, very specific, but you can know that I really like that industry, and that those are the people that I want to work for. Those are the people that I want to work with. Internet says,
Yeah, and even I feel like niching is always really tricky. I also like working with a wide range of people, but I feel like my own niche is more like style, but also values. So it's
yeah,
sort of like a soft niche, but I like working with people who have the same mindset as me. They also like have similar lifestyle values. So there are other ways to figure out who you want to work with, and that's totally okay. And yeah, even when I started, I was kind of just, I was doing everything for a very long time until I was like, I want to specifically work with these people. But even when I started working with those people, as I was working with those people, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I don't think I like this actually. So I'm gonna try something else. I feel like it's a journey. So it's
it
totally
definitely,
okay.
journey is the perfect word.
Journey.
Antoinette says, I want to work with content creators, but I also like photographers and realtors. So even though you like, obviously you like all three of them, again, as you get more familiar, you may narrow down, or you may not. You may offer different types of services, in a sense, different packages for content creators, photographers, and realtors. Like, you can do all three, right? Because it's your business, and you get to tailor it how you want to. As long as your mind can split up certain things for different industries, you could do that. Like, no, you don't have to only serve content creators. You don't have to only do photographer. You don't have to. You really don't. You'll hear it online that you have to. And I'm here to tell you that you don't. Does a niche have to be an industry, or it can be a service? And your niche is Black mom entrepreneurs in the creative field. That is a niche, right? You could even go deeper than that, like, right? What creative field, right? If you want, but no, it's not too broad, because we already know who they are. We already know what they do, right? Or what they offer. Obviously, some type of service. If you want to be helpful, that is not a niche, right? That's like a characteristic, right? That's a personality type, in a sense. So like, you want to be a little more specific than that. Helpful in what way, right? And we go deeper from there. And yeah, your verbiage is going to be super important as you get deeper into, you know, marketing yourself and marketing your services. How you talk needs to resonate with who you want to attract, right? And so I'm not a marketing expert, but I do know that, like, when it comes to, all of you are here because you resonated with something that I said at some point, right? Your friends are your friends because of how you act and how they resonate with you, with how you talk and how you carry yourself, all those things. So like, as you get more clear on who you want around, who you want to serve, who you want to call your clients, your wording, how you talk about yourself, how you talk about them, how you talk about what they need, has to be something that's like, when you say it, it's like they said it, because it's like, wow, she's in my head, like she knows me, right? And that's where the golden thing, the thing that people hate to do, is market research. If you do
I was
proper
just
market
gonna say that
research,
too.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not sure if you teach this, but I'm working on like updating all of my website copy, because I also feel like my website copy isn't fully targeting who I want to target. And so
Yeah.
this time around, I'm taking it pretty slowly. I'm doing a lot of market research. I did interviews with people. I did interviews with people that I thought would fit my ideal client. Maybe it's somebody who's already had work done, or maybe it's somebody I would want to work with. And so I did interviews with like 7 different people and recorded it and got the way they talk, got their problems. So now I have their words down and how they speak. I also have looked through like Facebook groups. So that's a good place to do market research, see what questions are being asked and save those, because then you can use them for content and you can use people's exact words. I really think market research is super important, even though it's a step that even I've skipped over in the past, but it's one that I always recommend too.
Any more questions for us? If not, Patra, do you have a question for me? No. If not, thank you so much for joining tonight. And thank you so much, Lucy, for sharing your expertise. You can find Lucy on Instagram at Hello Lucy, which is like so it's so branded. I love Lucy first of all.
Oh my
I love
God.
that show. But
Me too.
definitely follow her on Instagram, chat with her. She's an open book. She's so fun. And she is the one to go to if you have any branding questions, because I am not it. I know my lane, and that ain't that is not it. Thank you so much, Lucy. I will text you. And yeah, I hope you all have a good night.
Yes, feel free
hope you gonna
to
text
DM
me
me. Yeah, feel free to DM me. I love DMs. I love voice memos. And then I also gave Saba a link to a little freebie that I have. It covers a lot of the stuff that we talked about here, but it's just sort of questions that you can ask yourself as you are working on your branding.
Yeah. All right. Shayna, you can DM her and she can.
Yeah. Yeah,
All right.
send me a DM.
All right. Good night, y'all.